All right, so let's tear into the 500-pound gorilla here. And we're going to do a little help from our buddies over at Foreclosure Radar, which track things that your mama didn't even know about you, okay? Like, for example, notice of default, notice of sales. Now, we've actually seen the opposite been occurring for quite some time until this year. This year, recognizably here by this chart, we're noticing that the NTSs, the actual sales, are popping and spiking a little bit past, trailing with, but popping and spiking past 2, 3, 4, 5. They checked in now 6, almost 7 months of the year above the notice of defaults. Now, notice of defaults, of course, is the precursor to notice of sale. Notice of default typically issued after 90 days late. So once the mortgagee stops making their payment, right, and they trail back far enough, the bank will say, hey, okay, look, notice of default is basically day one of the foreclosure process, okay? So it's a good indication because if there's more notice of defaults than notice of sales, it looks like then you got a train wreck or a camel bump coming. And if they're upside down the other way, no more notice of sales than defaults, then the inclination is, generally speaking, that the worst is over. Now, I'm not suggesting either. I just think it's interesting that we're finally seeing that trend for 2010 peeling into this 2011 campaign. Now, foreclosure outcomes. Let's take a peek at those. Now, the cancellations, it's of course always going to be the highest because there's a lot of things that go into that. You know, that could mean either that they worked out a reinstatement with the our current owner, they paid up on their balance, they're back on the loan again. Could also mean that they're just working out with a loan mod. Okay, could also mean that they're trying to get a short sale and they have to postpone or cancel the foreclosure while they're continuing to do that. So the number is always going to be highest because there's the most outcomes that are going to come out of that, okay? It drops down to a 1-to-1 ratio down here, and you can see the banks taking back more. Now, here's the interesting thing apart. The general trend on all three, though, and the whale here of the number is all pointing downward, okay? Foreclosure inventories, relatively flat. I think the only thing a factor here of mention is the blue line, which is the one that trailed down southward all year until October, and then until it'll spike back up. These are the scheduled for sale. Oh, just so happens that might have been the RoboForm conspiracy time right about there as well. But the point to glean is that coming down, baby, while bank owns are coming up. And that's actually a good sign because as the problems upstream are heading down, the bank owns are the ones that flush them all out. So that's good news. Published bids, I'm not worried about that. That's sort of a moot point in this discussion. Foreclosure discounting, that's really more if you're getting super crafty with this stuff and at the investor level. Foreclosure timeframes, though, okay? One thing I noticed that was a little concerning about San Diego versus the rest of the state is that our times are going up right now, which I believe is more of just the fact that the banks are trying to work with the homeowners to do more, and it's because a lot of the inventory we got down here are short sales, and they're trying to do everything they can to make those deals work, which are languishing the short sales, and what that's doing is that's putting downward pressure on the other traditional and third party, and in this case bank-owned homes. So it's falling suit. So what we've got is a general trend right now that I don't like seeing, which it's taken a lot of gosh darn time on average to get the home from on the market into a transfer of ownership. So the last important point to make mention of here in our extrapolation of the bank-owned foreclosure short sale distressed property bracket in our 2011 forecast is the sweet spot of the market, okay? Now, if you're in the 100 to 450, 425, happens to be just around where the conventional kickoff is anyway, buyer's market, then this graph is going to find you just fine. This is the donkeys, you know what, right here, the $200,000 to $300,000 range. And I know this to be true too. Here at the Greenhouse Group, about 80 to 85% of all of our sales in 2010 were in the $200,000 to $300,000 range as well. And it isn't surprising at all that that's where the majority of the hot spot is emanating from. Okay, so now that we got that behind us, some summary points for you. All right, 2 quick points and I'm out of your way. First one, Some folks are coming up to me and they're saying, hey, Jess, okay, I'm looking at prices. They seem to be pretty flat. In some cases, even trending down. Okay. I'm looking at rates. They don't seem to be going anywhere too quick. So then what's the impetus for me to do anything other than just to kind of sit around and wait, because I don't want to be left held in the bill, AKA I want you to be my village idiot insurance. And you know what? In large part, I can't disagree with them, except for one very important point, okay? What's the most important thing about comedy? They say timing, right? So it's the same thing with real estate. In the distressed marketplace, the way it works is the majority of the stuff that's traded anyway, it's not the majority of the market. The majority of the stuff that's traded is distressed properties. So when it's a distressed property, it's not really a seller, okay? And why that's important to bring out is if it's not really a seller, it's a bank, then really what's going on, it's just they're trying to strap a tourniquet on a lost limb. And time is money. So the second that baby hits the market, they want to just get a good offer. And the first one they get that's good, that's going to close, they want to get right into escrow and they want to get that thing closed. So what happens is it creates a little bit of a vortex, because the majority of the buyers are then going after a minority of the market. So it like inverts, and it just creates a very unique situation right there at the, on the front lines, if you will, where timing becomes everything. Okay, so for those folks that are out there right now and they're thinking about sitting around, make sure that you're still vigilant about the strategies and the tools you've got to make sure that you're seeing the stuff as soon as it flies off on the market, and you've got a filtration system to be able to sort through those and get to the ones that you want to see first. Second thing, make sure you've got a strategy with the folks that are helping you to be able to account for timing as being the most important linchpin in that process. And if you don't have somebody on your team that looks, sounds, feels, smells like that, maybe it's time for a shift in your strategy for 2011. The second point are the interest rates. You want to talk about a linchpin, okay? The way it's happening right now, so you can appreciate this, is we're in an unprecedented time in history where rates are extremely, extremely low. Okay, now it's been said, this isn't a perfect science, but every time an interest rate jacks up about 1%, the buyer will lose about 10% in purchase power overnight. So if you were hunting for a $300,000 house and the rates were at 4 and they jumped up to 5, guess what? You're now hunting for a $270,000 house. Now, again, that's not an exact science, but it kind of gives you an idea of how important rates are. Okay, so as we trail into the 2011 campaign here, and you're thinking about the prices, maybe they haven't dropped, maybe they're, maybe they got a little more to go or whatever, I invite you to pan back for just long enough to where you can see the market as a whole. And if you look at it and file back here even on this recording to back to the first part where you saw San Diego, and you could see how low the prices were to some of its other communities that it's always trailed with historically, and you could see the whole county is on sale right now. So feel comfortable knowing that the prices largely are where you want them to be. 5-10 years in the future right now, you're going to look like a genius in any one of these communities that you fall into right now. However, the rates are the real variable. Okay? So as we head into the 2011 campaign, and the government is continuing right now to artificially deflate the mortgage-backed security bond prices so that you and I can borrow mortgage interest rates at historic lows, even lower than what they're really supposed to be at market. As that financial policy begins to no longer make as much sense and the rates start to trickle back up into the fives, which is still an amazing rate to be in the 5s and 6% versus on what our parents were buying at. But knowing what the impact that's going to have on your mortgage plan. So those are my two linchpins for the 2011 campaign, and I'm going to be your host alongside you here. You can check in on this channel, this YouTube channel. Either you can subscribe to it, or if you're catching us on Facebook here, go ahead and like this page, and we'll be tracking the hot bank-owned homes of the day, and I'll be sure to give you market updates whenever it's pointed to do so. And then best of luck to you in your home search. If there's anything we can do to help you, check back in with us. There's a couple links down below this video. We'd love to invite you in and see if we can't craft a strategy built around your goals to make sure that 2011 is the best year yet. All right, thanks for your time.